Now, in our study of marketing, it's important to recognise that we need to look outside of marketing as well as within marketing. So this week our focus is on the marketing environment. Those things that are outside of the core role of marketing, but still things that marketers need to pay attention to. So what is the marketing environment? Here are some definitions from one of your readings this week. The article by Evans, 1988, so it's a fairly old article. Evans describes the marketing environment as those conditions and influences impinging or potentially impinging on marketing. In other words, they're those things happening around the organisation and around the marketing function that may affect what marketers do. Now, these conditions and influences, Evans says, need to be continually monitored. Why? So the organisation can plan. The organisation needs to understand what changes are taking place around it in order to make decisions and think ahead about how to be in a good position when those changes occur, and also to respond to those changes as they're taking place. So there's Evans' initial view of the marketing environment. Here's another definition for you from your other reading for this week. This is the chapter from Sharp 2013. Sharp defines the marketing environment, and it's not all that different to Evans' definition, as the individuals, organisations and forces, in other words, those three things combined really describe everything outside of marketing, external to the marketing management function of an organisation that impinge, there's that word again, impinge or impact on the marketing management's ability to develop and maintain successful exchanges with customers. So these are changes happening outside of marketing that will impact on marketing. Sharp breaks this marketing environment down into a number of smaller components. The three key components that Sharp describes make up the marketing environment are firstly the micro environment, micro Latin or Greek for small. In other words, these are parts of the environment relatively close to the organisation. Macro environment. Macro means big. In other words, much more distant forces, further away from the organisation. And finally, the internal environment. These are factors within the organisation, but still outside of the marketing function that the organisation needs to consider. So back to Evans. This little diagram from that journal article, Evans 1988, describes the internal, the micro and the macro environments, in some cases not using those same words. If we look at the middle of the diagram here, you can see that Evans is describing the environment, the internal environment, as the things that the organisation has control over. The micro environment, from Evans' perspective, includes things such as the market, the competitive environment. Remember, the market is the customers. And then around the outside of this little diagram by Evans, there's legal, social, technological and economic environment. Okay, that's the macro environment. Let's look at it from Sharp's perspective. And I think this diagram by Sharp, and I'll use this one for the remainder of this lesson to describe the environment. As you can see, Sharp breaks it down into those forces very close to the organisation going all the way out. So that red circle in the middle here is the internal environment. Okay, this includes employees, equipment, finance and functional responsibilities, things happening within the organisation. The orange circle, one out from that, is the micro environment. So Sharp's micro environment includes customers, competitors, suppliers, intermediaries and other stakeholders. And finally, that outer ring there is the macro environment. These are those broader societal forces that really no organisation is able to control. For example, changes to the economy or to technology, political and legal changes and social and cultural forces. So that's what we mean when we talk about the marketing environment. The remainder of this lesson is going to go into each of these various components. Firstly, we'll be looking at the micro environment, then we'll look at the macro environment, followed by the firm's internal environment. So click that next button below me here and proceed through lesson number 3.